What's up? Welcome to Backend Stuff. I'm Jacob Blitzo, here to help you build tech for the future. Think about scalability, reliability, and cost. If you want to learn how to build scalable, production-ready APIs, hit that subscribe button now. All right, today we are using Guardian to set up an auth pipeline for our project. So using guardian.plug.pipeline will allow us to create protected endpoints requiring a JSON web token to access them. Let's go ahead and open up our project, Real Deal API. And let's go ahead and expand the lib directory, the Real Deal API web directory, and the auth directory. So the easiest way to use guardian.pipe.pipeline is to create a module that will define our auth pipeline for us. So let's make a new file in our auth directory. And we're going to call this pipeline.ex, hit enter. So let's go ahead and just create our module. So def module. All right, and then we'll let it auto-complete for us. All right, so when we create a pipeline, there are a few things we have to include at the top. So first we have to use guardian.plug.pipeline. And then we also need to include the name of our OTP app where our modules, where the pipeline modules can be found. So we just need to go OTP_app and then the name of our app with as an atom though. So real_deal_API. And then we need to include our implementation module that we created for Guardian last time, which is just the guardian.ex file. So this is our implementation for Guardian. So we need to do module : and then we need to do just the path to that file. So real deal API web.auth.guardian. All right. And then lastly, we need to include an error handler. So we need to do error handler : all right. We do not have an error handler for Guardian, so we need to create one. So let's also in the auth directory say, right click, say new file, and we're going to call this guardian_error_handler.ex, hit enter, and then create the module. And there we go. All right. And for this one, we need to import plug.con. So there we go. And then all we have to do for handling our errors is we need a function that will take the connection object and then the type of error that we can return as a JSON response. So what we're going to do is just create a function called auth_error, and then open parentheses, and we're passing in the con object, comma, and then we're going to pass in some parameters. So the type, and then the second parameter here would be the reason, but we don't need that. So we're just going to do _reason and then close off those curly braces. And then we can also pass in some options here, but we're not going to use those either. So do an _opts and then close off those parentheses. And let's open up this function with a do and end it with an end. And then all we're going to do here is we're going to create the JSON body. So we need a variable. We'll call it body. And then we're going to call JSON, or I should say JSON.encode. And then what we're going to do here is pass in a struct that is just going to have the error parameter, and we're going to convert the type of error to a string so we can just return that struct in our JSON response. And so we're just going to do the %, and then opening curly brace, and then we have an error. And then we're going to say to_string, opening parentheses, and pass in our type parameter. And then go ahead and close off those curly braces and parentheses. And now we have our struct that we can return in our response body. Okay, so now we're just going to transform our connection object to add the response content type and to send a response with our new body struct. Okay, so we're going to do con, and then we're just going to pipe off of it, and we're going to say put underscore response content type. And then in this, we just need to have a string called application /JSON. Okay, and that creates our response type. And then we need to pipe off this again. And we're just going to say send response. So send underscore response. And inside this response, we're going to return a 401 error, which is an auth error or unauthenticated error, right? And then our body. And that's all we need to do for our error handling file. So go ahead and hit Command S and save that. And now we can go back to our pipeline file, and we can just put the path in to our new Guardian error handler. So the real deal API web.auth.guardian error handler. So we have the beginning of our pipeline done and ready to use. And now all we have to do, it automatically imported our Guardian file, which we do not want. That is why the compiler is yelling at us. Okay, so these references are passed through the connection, so they must be in place before any Guardian plugs that we need to use. But by using the pipeline, every time it's called, it's automatically taken care of. So now underneath, we can just put the plugs that we need in place. And we're going to add 4 plugs here for our authentication check that will check for our JSON web token. And the first one is going to just be plug guardian.plug.verify session. All right. And then we're going to do guardian.plug.verify header, and then plug guardian.plug.ensure authenticated, and it automatically, I really have to figure out that auto import where it's just creating aliases because it is ruining my autocomplete. And then we want guardian.plug.load resource. And that alias popped back up. All right. So let's save this. There we go. No more errors. And so adding these plugs to the pipeline will look for tokens in either the session. If it's not found there, then it's going to look for tokens in the header. And then after that, we are going to just ensure that we found a token. If we haven't, it will fail. And then if we're given a token, we then attempt to load the resource the token refers to. And if that fails, if one's not found, it will fail as well. So we'll get unauthenticated error there. All right, so now we're ready to use this pipeline. So we can just head over to our router.ex file, and we want to create a pipeline. Like we already created one here that uses the plug that accepts JSON requests, right? We want to make one just like that. So pipeline, and we're going to call this one auth, and then do an end. So to create our auth pipeline, all we have to do now is use plug, and then we call our pipeline file just with the path, and it will automatically include all the plugs that we just put in that module. So we're just going to do real deal API web.auth.pipeline. All right, and now we can use this pipeline in a new scope that will just be for our protected endpoints. So they will always require a JSON web token to be used. So underneath our scope where we have so we're using the pipe through, and this is just using our API pipeline. We're going to create something very similar, and we're going to do scope space quotation marks /API. We want our endpoints to be the same. So everything is going to be the same except for what we pipe through. And so real deal API, and then do a do, and then the end will auto complete for you. So now when we do the pipe through, we still want to include our API pipeline because we are accepting JSON requests, but we can also make it a list to include the new auth pipeline that we just made. So what we'll do here is say pipe underscore through, and then space, and then you want to do open square brackets. We want it to go through our API pipeline, comma, we also want it to go through our auth pipeline, and then close off those square brackets. And now any endpoints we place within this scope will be protected endpoints that require a signed JSON web token from our API. So underneath here, let's just create a really easy endpoint with functions we already have available. And it's going to be a GET request. And we'll make it for accounts. So /accounts/ by ID. We're just going to, we'll return an account by the object ID. So with a GET request, we can actually just include our request in the URL. And to do that, we just have to do a :ID. And now when we put our request in Hopscotch, instead of having a request body, we can just put the object ID right in line in the URL. And then we'll do a comma, and this is going to call up our accounts controller. And then we want to use a function in the controller called show. And that already exists in our account controller. I just want to delete this alias that auto completed up there. And then, so the show, if we go to our controller here, whoops, controller is in the web one. If we go to our account controller and find show, it's right here. So it just takes an ID and then we'll return our account object. All right. So let's go back to our router, and that is all we have to do. This is now a protected endpoint. So save it, and let's just go and test this. So let's make sure our Postgres Docker image is running. So pull up that dashboard. If it's not running, press play here. Ours is running, so we're good to go. And then let's go to the terminal and CD into your project. Mine is in documents, develop, BS, and then the real deal API. And we can just do a mix phx.server to spin up our API locally. All right, once that compiles and is running, we can pull up Hopscotch. All right, and we already have our sign-in endpoint. So we go to localhost 4000, and we've already created accounts. So if we use an account we already created, which we have client2 at realdealapi.com, and our hash password is real password. So if we just hit send right now, we're going to get an account object back with our JSON token. So we are interested to get user information back with our new GET request. We're going to need the ID. All right. So if we just copy this ID, so Command C, and let's go ahead and make a new request, and we're going to call this get account by ID. And when we go to that, let's see. Whoops, don't save. All right, so get account by ID, and we want this to be our new GET request, which was by underscore ID / and then you just paste the ID here. Okay, and we don't need a body, so I'm going to delete this. And let's see. Our headers, we have a JSON. All right, so if I hit this GET request right now without including our JSON token, no route found. Maybe I typed it wrong. Let's take a look. All right, accounts by ID, and then all right. Oh, I forgot to make it a GET request. So put GET here instead of post. And now if we hit send, we get our error unauthenticated, which is pretty freaking cool, right? So we can't get our account info unless we have a signed JSON web token from our server. Let's go ahead and we'll save that. Let's go ahead and sign back in. We accidentally deleted. Oh no, there it is. Let's sign back into our sign in with the same email, same password, so we can get our token. So if we copy and paste this token right here, don't include the quotation marks. So copy, paste. And now if we go back to our get ID, why is this not updating? Well, anyways, we're not going to need this body. And then if we go to headers, we need to include an authorization header right here. And then we need to include our token, but you need to put bearer in front of it, space, and then paste our token, which is really long. But once that's included and we're using the same account ID for that user, when we hit send, we now get our account object back. We get our email, hash password, and ID. So we are now able to access restricted endpoints with our JSON web token. And then if I turn the bearer token off and hit send, we're unauthenticated again. So there you have it. We just created a protected endpoint that requires a JSON web token that you can only get when you use our sign-in endpoint, which is really freaking cool. As always, if you need help or want to check out the solutions, check out the GitHub link in the description. And if you have more questions or just want to hang out and chat, join my Discord server, backend stuff. That link is in the description as well. If you want to learn how to build scalable, production-ready APIs, hit that subscribe button now. See you next time.